We're really impressed with the work that you've done so far in your proposals, and in order to help you look back and evaluate what you've done so far for checkpoint 3, we've taken the design guidelines that Jorge and Manisa shared and applied them to an example that walks through the questions that you're answering for checkpoint 3. So design is about thinking in systems. It's about recognizing that problems are not linear, but that they are cycles of cause and effect that are part of larger interconnected systems. And examining the root causes of a problem helps you illuminate what really there is that can be changed. So asking yourself a series of why questions helps you identify the many different conditions that are impacting your chosen challenge. So if the surface problem is that mosquito nets are ineffective, is that because of a technical problem with the insecticide, or is it a social problem that people are not using the nets properly? You want to keep tracing that back and asking yourself why. Is it that people don't know how to use them properly? Is it they are not receiving the nets? Or are they using them for other purposes because the nets are free? And we've created a printable version of this for you to do with your team. So once you've identified the root causes of your problem, then you can look and see, well, what do I want to see changed? Who are my users and how will they benefit? And there are two parts to this. First is the function of your intervention. What are the measurable actions and changes that you want to see happen for your users? And the second piece is the longer term impacts. What effect will these changes have on the rest of the system over time? So if we look at an example, we see that we want children to have and use bed nets regularly, with the long-term impact being a reduction in number of children contracting malaria. And we want caregivers to replace bed nets often, with the same long-term impact. And again, we've created a worksheet version for you. So it's important to try to change what you can, but also important to understand what might be beyond the scope of this project or outside of your expertise. So looking at our series of why questions, we can begin to identify some constraints. These might be specialized scientific knowledge, like the chemistry knowledge required to create a new insecticide, or it might be social and cultural norms, like precedents and standard practices in humanitarian aid, or it might be sort of local geographic conditions that you simply can't change, like the difficulty in keeping rodents out of homes. So once you've identified constraints, there is this concept of leverage points. You want to find the simplest intervention you can that will have the greatest impact. So looking back at your list, now that you have eliminated some of those areas as points of intervention, you can look at other ones as possible places for change. So one, maybe there's an easy way to measure loss of potency. Or maybe you can establish a method for economic accountability for use of the nets. And the method of intervention is very important. Many of you have already thought a lot about this, but revisit it and make sure that the method you're choosing lines up closely with the outcomes and impacts that you want to see happen. So you want to make sure that you are making it as easy as possible for your users and stakeholders to be successful in the change that you want to see happen. The method that you use should tie in very closely to the outcomes that you expect for them. So if we look at an example of a proposed solution, this was a solution that was in fact proposed and ended up being too expensive, but it's really useful for our purposes here. So the solution was to integrate a dye that changes color as the insecticide decays. So that's a really simple solution that occurs at the point of manufacture. So the type of solution is product modification. And then it enters a system that already exists for use of the nets. So your intended outcomes you see in the yellow circle, that these are the changes that you would expect people to make. And in the blue circle, the long-term impacts. And then in the outer gray circle, you see your primary users and stakeholders. So this is available under resources. We strongly recommend going through it and trying to complete some of these tables for your own proposal. It really helps you see where any gaps might be and will help you direct your questions to the experts so that they're most effective. Please let us know if you have any further questions, and good luck.